Okay, colleagues, can I call everyone to attention as we focus on Sudan and this crisis before us. 2 years on from this war starting, with front lines shifting again, I fear that many onlookers feel a sense of déjà vu. The country's fraught history also means that some conclude that further conflict is effectively inevitable. Many have given up on Sudan. That is wrong. It's morally wrong when we see so many civilians beheaded, infants as young as 1 subjected to sexual violence, more people facing famine than anywhere else in the world. We simply cannot look away. And as I speak, civilians and aid workers in Al Fasher and Zamzam IDP camp are facing unimaginable violence, with over 4 million refugees having fled the country and instability spreading far beyond Sudan's borders. It's also strategically wrong to forget Sudan. And that's why, as Foreign Secretary, I refused to turn away. I felt a duty to confront this war's horrors head-on. I've, of course, been to the Sudanese borders and met with survivors. I've called out attacks on civilians and humanitarian workers in the United Nations, and I've doubled our aid to Sudan. And today I'm announcing a further £120 million worth of support. But the biggest obstacle is not a lack of funding or texts at the United Nations. It's a lack of political will. Very simply, we have got to persuade the warring parties to protect civilians, to let aid in and across the country, and to put peace first. And so we do need patient diplomacy, and bringing together this group today, focusing, of course, on the areas where we agree, but building out from there is very, very important today, indeed. Today's goal is then to do just that. We all want to see Sudan's sovereignty and territorial integrity upheld. We all want to see a united state with functioning institutions. We all want to see Sudan's civilians protected and the millions of displaced people able to return to their homes. This is a strong basis to agree the steps needed then to relieve the suffering and to end this awful war. I hope across our 3 sessions we can agree to set out principles for our future diplomatic engagement. When I met with Sudanese refugees in Chad, I was frankly humbled by their resilience. In the face of unimaginable trauma, they had not given up on their country or the communities around them. For their sake, we cannot resign ourselves to inevitable conflict. We cannot be back here 1 year from now having the same discussion. So today, let's show them and the world that we've not given up on them. We've not given up on Sudan. I'm hugely grateful to the support of the African Union and to my colleagues from France, from Germany, the EU in supporting this shared endeavour. Let me hand over to AU Commissioner Bankole.
Thank you, Foreign Secretary. The core message today from the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, is that, and I quote, there can be no military solution in Sudan. Only an immediate, unconditional cessation of hostilities. This, we believe, must be followed by an all-inclusive dialogue to end the war. The devastation, the fragmentation, the humanitarian crisis cannot be tolerated, as you stated, Foreign Secretary. Today marks the beginning of the third year in Sudan. The security situation remains volatile. Ordinary Sudanese are bearing the brunt of this unnecessary, devastating war. The African Union calls on all belligerents to stop this war. We are here because we believe we can invest in the peace of Sudan together. It is also important to send the message clear and loud that the African Union will not allow a balkanization, a disintegration, or a partition of Sudan. We must preserve the sovereignty, the territorial integrity, and the political unity of the Republic of Sudan. We call on all external actors to refrain from interference in Sudan. It does not help the good people of Sudan. Only a united front to save and support Sudanese will be a lasting solution. Foreign Secretary, colleagues, our ultimate goal as the African Union is to end the war with your support, with IGAD support, with the League of Arab States, with the intergovernmental body called IGAD. But it must be Sudanese-led, Sudanese-owned, the political dialogue process that we cherish. The African Union roadmap adopted by our leaders has clear 6 pillars that has comprehensively outlined the immediate needs and aspirations of the Sudanese people. It is time to support and expedite the implementation of this roadmap. In conclusion, Foreign Secretary, the African Union reaffirms a coordinated and integrated global approach to resolving this crisis. This must be the legacy of the London Sudan Conference. It is a landmark moment for us, for international partners and friends of Sudan, to provide a pathway to an enduring peace and stability. A new Sudan is possible, but for us, it must be anchored on one thing: the restoration of a civilian-led, constitutional, democratic order. I thank you, Foreign Secretary, for co-chairing this process.
This conference builds on the work of France last year, and I'm very grateful for Jean-Noël Barrot for co-hosting with me. Jean-Noël.
Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des Nations Unies, de l'Union africaine, de la Ligue des États arabes, de l'Union européenne et de l'IGAD. Il y a 2 ans, le 15 avril, le destin de dizaines de millions de Soudanaises et de Soudanais a basculé lorsque le conflit entre les forces armées soudanaises et les forces de soutien rapide a éclaté. 2 ans après, nous devons continuer d'agir collectivement pour que ce conflit ne tombe pas dans l'oubli, pour y apporter une réponse concrète. La France se tient aux côtés des Soudanaises et des Soudanais. Comme toi, cher David, je me suis rendu auprès des réfugiés à la frontière entre le Soudan et le Tchad en novembre dernier, au contact des réalités que vivent les Soudanaises et les Soudanais, y compris celles et ceux qui ont été contraintes de se réfugier dans les pays voisins. Et j'en ai tiré 3 convictions. La première, c'est que nous devons rester pleinement mobilisés pour soutenir la réponse humanitaire. Elle est vitale pour les Soudanaises et les Soudanais. Il y a 1 an, la conférence de Paris avait permis de lever plus de 2 milliards d'euros pour appuyer les populations affectées par le conflit. Nous pouvons nous féliciter que la quasi-totalité des engagements financiers humanitaires ait été décaissée. Nous avons collectivement tenu nos promesses et je tiens à saluer la mobilisation européenne qui a été cruciale. Et je sais, cher Hadja, que l'Union poursuivra son action. Mais la situation se dégrade chaque jour davantage. Nous devons donc tous nous mobiliser. Et c'est pourquoi j'ai décidé d'allouer 50 millions d'euros supplémentaires pour soutenir l'action des agences des Nations Unies et des organisations non gouvernementales au Soudan et dans les pays voisins en 2025. En réponse aux demandes formulées lors de la conférence de Paris, des avancées ont été réalisées en matière d'accès humanitaire, dont la réouverture du couloir d'Adré entre le Tchad et le Soudan. Je salue à cet égard cette décision importante prise par les autorités dirigées par les forces armées soudanaises, mais ces progrès demeurent toutefois insuffisants. Nous y reviendrons ultérieurement. Ma deuxième conviction, c'est que la communauté internationale doit agir pour favoriser les conditions d'un règlement négocié du conflit. Il y a 1 an, nous avons adopté à Paris une déclaration de principe forte qui a démontré notre capacité à nous rassembler. Alors que le conflit évolue, nos discussions aujourd'hui doivent nous permettre d'avancer dans la même direction au service de la paix. Et pour cela, les acteurs étrangers impliqués dans le conflit doivent arrêter d'apporter un soutien militaire aux partis et s'abstenir de toute action qui alimenterait les combats. Pour cela aussi, les Nations Unies ont un rôle à jouer pour renforcer les efforts de médiation en cours et proposer une sortie de crise. Ma troisième conviction est qu'aucune solution durable ne sera apportée au conflit si les acteurs civils sont exclus du processus de paix. Pour que les armes se taisent, il faut que les voix de la société civile puissent s'exprimer. Il y a 1 an, nous avions fourni un espace à Paris à une diversité d'acteurs politiques et sociaux soudanais afin qu'ils puissent dialoguer librement et articuler leurs efforts visant à faire émerger une solution politique. La France a pris note de la feuille de route présentée par les autorités dirigées par les forces armées soudanaises pour restaurer une transition politique. Elle rappelle l'impératif d'une participation effective de tous les acteurs civils dans le cadre d'un processus unique. À cet égard, je suis particulièrement préoccupé par les intentions exprimées par différents acteurs de former des gouvernements de manière unilatérale et en dehors de tout processus de résolution du conflit. Disons-le clairement, l'unité du Soudan doit être préservée. Voilà, mesdames et messieurs, les convictions que je souhaitais partager avec vous et avec les Soudanais qui nous écoutent. Nous n'abandonnerons pas le Soudan, parce qu'il en va de notre sécurité, de notre responsabilité comme membre permanent du Conseil de sécurité, responsabilité que nous exerçons conjointement aujourd'hui avec David. Il en va aussi de nos intérêts, mais aussi d'une certaine vision du monde. Une vision qui conduit la France à demeurer fidèle à son engagement de soutenir l'aspiration du peuple soudanais à la démocratie après la révolution de décembre 2018. Chers collègues, je forme le vœu que nous n'ayons pas à nous réunir l'an prochain, sinon pour célébrer la paix retrouvée au Soudan. Agissons ensemble avec résolution et en coordonnant nos efforts pour qu'il n'y ait pas de troisième anniversaire. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Jean-Noël, and I'm very grateful for the leadership of Foreign Minister Baerbock from Germany in her period as Foreign Minister. Annalena.
Thank you very much, dear Minister, dear David, for bringing us here together. This is very important in these days, ladies and gentlemen. My stomach hurts. I want to go home and play with my friends. End of quote. That is what 7-year-old Saki from Sudan said to his mothers shortly before he died in her arms. He died of anemia. His family did not have enough to eat. Saki's family is one of a million in Sudan. When we are reading headlines in European media about the so-called forgotten crisis in Sudan, I ask myself, how can we forget about children like Saki, one of a million? How can we forget the world's largest humanitarian crisis? The 30 million who cannot survive without humanitarian assistance. The horrific reports of women and children being raped. When I was in one of these refugee camps, speaking to a mother, telling me that her daughter cannot get up anymore after being raped several times before coming to the refugee camps, there are no words left. The reported atrocities, such as the people trapped in El Fasher and the hundreds of civilians and aid workers that have reportedly been killed this weekend. We cannot forget them, because every life matters. This war must end, and if it continues, there will not be any winner at all. We all lose humanity. Therefore, I would also like to underline 3 priorities. 1, humanitarian assistance. Germany is today pledging an additional 125 million euros for Sudan and their neighboring states. But we must ensure that humanitarian assistance can actually reach those in need most, children like Saki. And I want to be crystal clear as well. No amount of humanitarian assistance will be sufficient if this war continues. As said by the African Union, there cannot be any military solution. This war must end. Therefore, second, all external actors must work towards de-escalation. Those who seek to gain power or influence in Sudan through military or financial support are fueling the flames of conflict, and they should see the face of Saki and the raped girls and women every day. We therefore urge all external actors to use their power responsibility in order to shape a secure and peaceful region. Third, the parties to the conflict must finally come to the negotiation table. We firmly support the African Union and the United Nations in taking the lead towards a lasting peace. And I would also underline the words of my French colleague and my British colleagues. We had a good meeting in Paris, and we were a couple of steps further than we are right now today. So we have to continue to work on that roadmap. A first step for a lasting ceasefire could be an agreement for the protection of critical infrastructure as proposed by the European Union. And those who are definitely ready for peace are the people of Sudan, the millions of innocent. We need them, we need the civilians, for a political process that empowers the Sudanese people to shape their own future. Because they are not forgetting about their people. They are not forgetting about the children like Saki. They are not forgetting about the survivors of sexual violence, the millions of people who had to flee their homes, and we are standing by their side. We will continue our work until we see peace also in Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna-Lena, and I'm very grateful. I think the whole world is very grateful for the huge financial contribution of the European Union. Commissioner Lammy, very grateful.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, David. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I would like, first of all, to thank you all for your commitment to the people affected by the war in Sudan. I was in eastern Chad just last week, and I saw the devastating impact of this conflict on refugees, especially women and children. What I saw, what I've heard, was horrifying, just heartbreaking. And today, my thoughts are with the people of Sudan, to the nearly 15 million who have been uprooted by conflict, to the 500,000 people trapped in Zamzam camps since February 2025, to the hundreds who died last week, to the nearly 25 million people in emergency food insecurity. I also saw the courage and dedication of the humanitarian workers feeding the hungry and saving lives, and sometimes, unfortunately, losing their own lives. The EU is more committed than ever to get humanitarian aid to those who need it most, both in Sudan and neighboring countries. But we must have unhindered access. That was my main message when I was in Chad, last week. I praised also the open and welcoming policy of Chad to welcoming the refugees. The EU, with our member states, is keeping the Sudan crisis high on the agenda, for example, through high-level events. We also organized a joint event with UNHCR last week on the regional dimension of the crisis with my friend Filippo Grandi. The unprecedented humanitarian challenges in Sudan require a united front and a powerful collective advocacy. We must speak with one voice to demand respect for international humanitarian law, the protection of civilians, including humanitarian workers, and unhindered access for humanitarian aid in Sudan and in the hard-reached areas. The EU has made available €282.5 million this year for the crisis in Sudan. This covers humanitarian, development and stability programs, both in Sudan and the neighboring countries. But this funding will not be enough, so we need strong collective action. And we must strengthen our coordination to make sure our funding works together and not in silos. This includes getting development actors and the private sector more involved. We must also recognize the vital role of local responders and support them. A principled, timely, and flexible approach is crucial for donors to support the vital work of humanitarian organizations. The Sudan crisis is the largest humanitarian crisis in the world, and I'm committed to keeping it high on the global agenda. Let's make sure today's discussions lead to much-needed relief for the people of Sudan. They are counting on us. We cannot look away. We all have a responsibility. We need to take this responsibility all together. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And with that, I think the media are now departing.